With this bag of crystals and the help of my lovely Russian girlfriends, I'm going to teach you how to trade the different time frames to burn this in your brain and help you stop losing money. So let's introduce the girls, starting with Mother Monthly. The monthly is like the mother of all time frames. You always pay her respect, and generally she has the most influence. Next, we have Wilma Weekly. Now, Wilma is kind of like your work wife. You don't mess around with the weekly trend because she means business. Next, we have Dominica Daily. Now, Dominica is sort of like a supermodel. She's constantly in the back of your mind because the daily can offer some powerful signals. And next, we have Helga on the 4-hour. Now, Helga is like your regular girlfriend. Very reliable. You're always looking at what's happening on the 4-hour, and this is your go-to. Next, we have Oksana on the 1-hour. Oksana is like your side chick. She's an occasional good time, but less reliable than Helga on the 4-hour. Now we're moving into the fun zone. So Madison on the 15-minute, she's like that chick you met on spring break and you had a fling. You don't take it too seriously, but it's kind of a bit of fun now and then. Now we're in pure fun only. This is Randy on the 5-minute, and Randy is a stripper. This is one night stand territory only. And here we have Lolita on the 3-minute. This is pure degeneracy. You only talk to Lolita, who's an OnlyFans model, at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday night. Lastly, this is Volga on the 1-minute. Volga is a false signal. You don't touch it. She's not a chick, she's a dude. Now you've met the girls, you can see there's a sliding scale from the higher time frames you take more seriously down to the lower time frames that are for Degen fun only. Now you may be wondering, what are the crystals for? Well, if the girls represent the different time frames, then the crystals represent the volume. But before I give the demonstration, let's jump onto the whiteboard and I'll show you the theory behind this. Less experienced traders and investors, when looking at their preferred asset, will only think about how price is evolving through time and what are their preferred price levels. However, this is only looking at price in 2 dimensions, because ultimately price is a result of whether there are more buy orders or sell order flow, right? So there's a 3rd dimension here, which is that volume or quantity of the amount bought and sold. So to give a quick example, let's say that at the beginning of the day, price started off at, say, 50, and it was kind of bumbling along, and then suddenly it jumped up here, and then for the rest of the day, it kind of just didn't do too much like that, and let's say it got to $100 there. Well, that would be behind there the result of the volume, because in the morning, in this period, there might only be very small buys and sells, right? And then let's say here there was some news event and there was a big injection of volume here, right? Then suddenly that pushes the price up. And then now, later in the day, it gets towards the evening and then the volume starts ticking back down again and there's very little volume. So you have to be thinking about both the volume and the price and time in order to really understand what's going on. And to help you to visualize this in sort of 3 dimensions, let's go back outside and I'll show you a visual demonstration of how you can really think about the volume and use this to your advantage in your trading. So now let's apply the theory and use the crystals to represent the quantity or volume traded and see the impact on price. So if we take Oksana, our side chick, on the 1 hour, and we fill up the crystals with the typical amount of quantity or volume traded in that 1 hour period, and we pop Oksana on our makeshift scales here, let's say there are a lot of sellers in that 1 hour period, then it's going to push price down like that. However, if we look at Dominica on the daily, our supermodel, well, obviously in a daily period, we can fit a lot more volume. So if we fill up the daily with all that volume, will fit, and then we pop Dominica on the scales, and let's imagine through that whole day period, there are actually a lot of net buyers overall in the day, then there's a lot more volume. So when we put that on there, if it'll balance, it's gonna completely overpower those sellers that happened only in that 1 hour. So there you can see exactly why volume can actually explain why these higher time frames have much more impact. Now, for every rule, there can be an exception, and the volume can overpower the time frames. So let's take an example when it's a bank holiday Monday, the markets are open, but everyone's at the beach. So the volume transacted in that day is very, very low. And let's say there were mostly just buyers, so they do push the price up a little bit during that bank holiday Monday. Now, on the Tuesday, let's say there's been some news in the morning, and during that first hour, there's a huge quantity of volume transacted because everyone's been away all weekend and they want to get on their risk and get on their positions. So there's all that volume gone in that first 1 hour. Now, when we put this on the scales, and let's say there are a lot of sellers, that huge amount of volume is going to overpower the entire previous day of trading because there's 10 times more volume in that 1 hour than there was in an entire 24 hours the previous day. The third insight is that what starts happening on the lower time frames, like the 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 hour, can be the early signs of a trend change that will start to trickle up into and through the higher time frames, because ultimately each of the lower time frames fits inside the time frame above. So the 5 minute fits inside 3 lots of 5s into the 15 minute, and then there are 4 15 minutes inside the 1 hour, and so on. And just like Russian dolls, all the time frames fit inside each other. Now you understand the concepts with the different time frames and the order flow volume and resulting effect on price, how can we bring all this information together and use it in our trading strategies? Well, let's jump into TradingView and I'll show a demo on the Bitcoin chart looking at the monthly time frame. And here, straight away, you can see how these monthly candle closes are very highly respected when price comes back later to the same level. So for example, here was the previous all-time high in October 2021. And over 2 years later, when price had recovered from this big dip here, comes back up in February 2024, and that month closes almost to the dollar at the same 61,500 level. And then after that, price goes above and then has a bit of a pullback and back tests again that level. Then we had another rotation higher. Price comes back down, and as of today, it's now testing that level again, 61,500. And there are loads of examples like this. I mean, here, look at the lows. This level 23,000 was important, had 2 monthly closes there. And then during the FTX crash, price went below, started to recover, came back up and back tested that level again. The levels then flipped to support, and then in March, price moves up, have several months going sideways, and then here in August, price comes back down, and you see the bottom of the wick in that candle there, almost exactly 23,000 again before it continued. And you'll see this in all the higher time frames, the monthly, the weekly, the daily, and usually the 4-hour as well. So it's super useful to be looking at these time frames. Now, to start finding your trade setups, you can start plotting all these levels on. So for example, on the monthly, I've already plotted all the monthly closes here, and you can work your way down through the time frames. So jump onto the weekly, there's the weekly closes, and next the daily, and I've color coded these so I can differentiate. And finally, I'll pull up the 4-hour and I'll turn those on as well, and then start zooming in, and you can start to see where there might be reactions of price at these different levels. And then next you want to bring in the volume element. So here I've just turned on the basic volume indicator from TradingView, and that'll show us some volume information as well. And then if you really want to go all out, you could start using some professional software like XOcharts and start looking at volume profiles and TPO charts. And even on the lower time frames, come down to like the 5-minute and look at the sort of finer detail on how that volume's developing through the day. But I have to say, all these skills take time to learn. I mean, it's taken me months, if not years, to fully master, what's important, which monthly or which daily close out of all the different ones is going to be more important than the other. So to help you, something that I've found very useful myself is a paid indicator from MDX ALGO, which is called Auto Charting Tools. And I'll give you a quick preview. Go back into TradingView. Let's turn all this off and let's load up Auto Charting Tools. Select that and we'll go into the settings, and it will plot for us all the monthly, daily, weekly, and so on levels. And it will give you support and resistance lines that are weighted by the volume transacted, and it will give you supply and demand zones, and it all just plots it on the chart automatically. And this is really, really helpful if you're just getting new to trading or you're trying to improve your skills, and you've got that algorithm in the background to help cross-check any levels you might be looking at. So if you'd like to try the auto charting tools, then click on the link I've put in the video description below, and it will take you over to the MDX Algo website, where you can sign up and you get a good discount with my link, and then you can try auto charting and 9 other really useful indicators that I use every single day in my trading and investing. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the timeframes and how to think about volume. If you'd like to learn more, then hit that subscribe button, or drop me any comments or questions. And next week I'll be doing a deep dive video into auto charting tools to show more how this works, and also share some of my own trading strategies. Plus, I'll have a guest trader on the show showing how he uses this with a really nice Fibonacci strategy. So definitely look out for that. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've had a blast making it, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.